One of the most important ways to make your space feel comfortable and cozy is by understanding lighting and how to correctly use it in your space. You might have seen the trend on social media of people using a bunch of lamps instead of the big overhead light that most apartments and houses come with, and that is definitely something that I live by. Like a lot of other people, I used to have the misconception that lamps were unnecessary, annoying to turn on, and used a lot of electricity, but over the last few years of really developing my passion for home decor and interior design, I've realized that A, lamps play a huge role in making your space feel welcoming and cozy. B, they can be set up in a way that's really convenient. And C, they actually barely cost anything to power. Trust me when I say that good lighting can totally transform your space. That's why in this video, I'm going to share everything that I've learned about lighting, including a full tour of all of my lamps in my current lighting setup, some specific brands and lamps that I recommend, and most importantly, my top 5 lighting tips that you can use to level up your space. Tip number 1 is to understand lighting placement. You can split your lighting needs into 2 categories to understand where to place them: functional lighting and ambient lighting. Functional lighting is to illuminate a specific area where you do things, and ambient lighting is just to fill in the dark spots to make the space look nice. When you're figuring out where to place your lamps, you want to start with functional lighting since these make the space actually usable, and then fill in any gaps or dark spots with ambient lighting to really bring the space to life. Let's take this living room as an example. I place functional lights wherever I'll actually be sitting and spending time, and then I place ambient lights in any dark spots where I want to highlight any decor and really bring the whole space together. Tip number 2 is to use the right lighting temperature. You may have noticed that some light bulbs give off a colder bluish tone, while most of the bulbs in my lamps glow more of a warm yellow tone. These differences in the shade of white is known as the light temperature range, and light bulbs usually go from around 2000K up to 8000K, with the lower part of that range being warm light and the upper part of that range being cold light. To get this cozy aesthetic, you want to choose light bulbs that are in the lower part of this range, usually around 2700K. Lamps using these bulbs will give off a warm cozy light rather than a harsh cold light. If you want the flexibility to choose the color of your lighting, you can also choose color changing smart bulbs, but just make sure they support a warm white color because not all of them do. Tip number 3 is to use different types of lamps. Different lamps will fit better in different spaces and use cases. Broadly speaking, lamps can be broken down into floor lamps, table lamps, wall lamps, and pendant lamps. Floor lamps are great for lighting spaces where you either don't have a table or shelf to place a lamp on, or when you need to free up table space. Table lamps are probably the most common and self-explanatory, and are great for placing on desks, shelves, and side tables. This also includes portable lamps, which are great for carrying around or for using in areas where you don't have access to an outlet. Wall lamps are the most space efficient because they don't take up any floor space or table space. My favorite use of this in my home is as bedside lighting, since nightstands are generally pretty compact and can get really cluttered if you need to place a table lamp on them. And finally, pendant lamps are great for lighting large areas where you need some overhead lighting. A good example of this is the pendant light above my dining table. When you're eating dinner, you want to be able to see both the food and the people you're eating with, so a pendant lamp like this works great here. They can also be helpful for just generally making a space brighter if it's particularly dark or large. Just make sure not to only use one pendant light and pair it with some other lamps as well. Tip number 4 is to use different lamp styles. Even though every lamp functionally works the same, you want to get different styles to prevent the space from feeling one-dimensional or repetitive. This corner is a really good example of that. I have one more modern-looking floor lamp which shines directly down onto this side table and lounge chair, and also one larger paper shade lamp which diffuses light softly over the whole area. Together, they make this area look really interesting and multi-dimensional. One exception to this rule would be any lamps that you're purposely pairing together, such as these matching kitchen pendants or these bedside wall lamps. And finally, tip number 5 is to use smart bulbs. One of the biggest potential downsides of using lamps is having to turn them all on and off one by one, which is especially annoying if you have a lot of lamps like I do. Especially nowadays, hooking up all of your lamps to either smart bulbs or smart plugs is super easy and very affordable. All you need is some smart bulbs, some smart plugs, and your supporting app or smart home system of choice. I personally use these Amazon Basic smart bulbs, which are affordable, energy efficient, and connect to my Alexa smart home or app. For any lamps that don't use traditional bulb sizes, I just plug them directly into smart plugs and then into the wall. Not only does setting this up let you control all of your lights and turn them all on and off at the same time, but most smart home systems also let you set schedules to turn them on and off during certain hours of the day and remotely control them in case you left the house and forgot to turn the lights off. Let's talk about some of the best brands and lamps that you can buy for your space. I'll preface this by saying you absolutely do not need expensive lamps to have good lighting. As someone who's made both a career and a passion out of interior design and home decor, I do happen to have a lot of high-end lamps, some of which I've spent a lot of money on, and also some which I've been gifted by working with some of these amazing brands. With that being said, over the years I've used a ton of different lamps from a ton of different brands and can confidently say that there are great lighting options at every single price point. These are some of my favorites broken down into budget options, more premium options, and finally high-end designer options. First, starting with budget options, IKEA is by far going to be your best bet. They have a bunch of different lamps in a lot of different styles, so there's really something for everyone here. One of my all-time favorites is the Dejsa lamp, which I actually have 2 of in my space. Here are some of my other favorites, and since I'm probably going to butcher the names of almost all of these, I'll just put them on screen here and you can pause the video if you want to take a look at them. Amazon also obviously has a bunch of different options, but like anything on Amazon, they can really be hit or miss. I don't have any specific suggestions here, but if you do use Amazon, I would just encourage you to use the highest rated options. Moving up one level to more premium options, this is really where a lot more variety, creative design, and high quality options begin to emerge. There are a ton of different brands to choose from, but let's go over some of my favorites. Gantry is a brand that actually 3D prints all their lamps, and something cool about them is that they actually partner with a bunch of independent designers and studios to create a really wide variety of designs that are both really unique and super functional. Wooj is another great brand that also 3D prints their lamps. They're a bit newer in the lighting space, so the options are a lot more limited, but they're definitely worth checking out. Moving on, Hey is another great premium brand that's most well known for their paper shade lamps, which are a more expensive and premium version of the ones you find at IKEA. I would also highly recommend checking them out for great portable lamps. Speaking of paper shade lamps, the undisputed king of this style is Noguchi. Their Akari paper lanterns are definitely more expensive than IKEA and even Hey, but the thing that really makes these stand out as one of my favorites is the detailed craftsmanship in the materials they use. These paper lanterns are handcrafted by artisans in Japan using a more natural looking off-white material rather than pure white. This makes these lamps in particular glow a really warm and comforting light. They also come in a huge variety of styles and sizes. If you want some more playful options, you can also check out Urban Outfitters Home. Some of their items can definitely be overpriced, but if you're going for a more colorful, playful aesthetic, there are definitely some great options here. Last up are the high-end designer brands. Even though they are very expensive, these can be worth it if you're either A, rich, or B, have a really strong passion for authentic and high quality design. In this price range, you'll find a lot of iconic and really eye-catching options that can really stand out as the centerpiece in any room you place them in. One of my favorites that is all over my home is Louis Poulsen. They're most well known for their Penthella lamps, which have that signature mushroom shape, but pretty much all their lamps are some of the most iconic designs, and they have a huge variety of table, floor, and pendant options. Next up is Herman Miller. Their most popular and recognizable designs are their Nelson lamps, which look like a much more refined version of the paper shade lamps and comes in pendant, floor, and table variations. And Tradition is another great high-end option. One of their signature pieces is the flower pot lamp, which you might have seen around, but I also highly recommend checking out all their portable lamp options too. Last up, and probably the most expensive of the bunch, is Floss. They have a lot of really great modern designs, but my absolute favorite is the 265 wall lamp. It has the space-saving benefits of a wall-mounted lamp, but with its flexible design, it can move to cover multiple areas. Obviously, I just threw a ton of different brands at you, but honestly, you can't go wrong with any of these options. I would recommend first determining your price point and then figuring out what style you're going for in your specific space. From there, you can then choose which specific brands and lamps fit that vision. So that's pretty much it for this lighting focused video. Hopefully you learned some things about how to deal with lighting in your space, but if I missed anything you're wondering or still need help with, definitely let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to respond and give some advice. I guess I'll just end this video off by emphasizing that like any other part of decorating, figuring out how to properly light your space will probably take some time and experimentation. My personal design philosophy is to always take your time to figure out how you actually use and live in a space, because every space is different and will require a good bit of trial and error to figure out how to make it work best for you. So do your research, find inspiration online, and figure out what you like and don't like about your current space. This is also my first time doing a video like this about a specific interior design topic, so I would love to hear what you think in the comments, and I will see you next time, home buddies.